So many issues in the sector, and one is wondering how far so far and for how long will we have to deal with this? Well, we have been talking about the NARD being on strike for justifiable reasons as far as they are concerned and unjustifiable as far as the federal government is concerned. But then there is another strike notice, another strike impending in the same health sector. This time, those who are even senior to the NERD members who are at this moment holding forth, and that's the Medical and Dental Consultants Association of Nigeria. The president joins us this morning, Professor Ken Ozoilo. He joins us in our studio in Abuja. We'll shortly have Comrade Isare join us as well, but let's begin with you, Prof. You said in the release you put out that this has been on for 10 years. In other words, since 2011. Is that correct? And why has it taken so long? What are the issues?
Good morning, and thanks for having me in the studio. I want to say that it's a very unfortunate situation that we have to get to this point where the likelihood of disruption of services, is looming. And I want to state that our ultimatum was issued before the resumption of the NAD strike. The problem actually started when salaries were renegotiated by both NMA and ASO in 2009. Let me just create a bit of a background. Our members have a peculiar situation in that we're employed both in the universities as lecturers in the medical schools and the teaching hospitals as honorary consultants. So this peculiarity means that we straddle two sectors, so to speak, both the education and health. Now, for the same reason, the remuneration is drawn primarily from the university as a primary employer and with allowances from the teaching hospital. Now, with the remuneration that was approved in 2009 and subsequently renegotiated in 2013, 2014, the situation arose where the combined take-home of somebody who is, to all intents and purposes, doing two jobs fell below that of someone who is, employed primarily as a consultant in the hospital. So what we've been trying to draw government's attention is to the fact that a situation where someone does two full-time jobs and draws a salary that is less than one is unacceptable. And it's lasted this long because we, as the very senior, doctors in the service, we do not like to, go on strike for any reason, unless it becomes inevitable. And you'll agree with me that something that has lingered since 2009, 10, 11, up to 13, till date. I think that our patience is exhausted, okay? And we have not seen hitherto any meaningful move by government. Prior to now, we've been tossed about. Like I said, we straddle two sectors, and everybody's job is nobody's job, and nobody seems to be willing to provide a solution to this. So this is why it's lingered, and this is why members are fed up and have decided on this course of action.
Is it to say, Prof, that the authorities or the relevant authorities or agencies of government that are supposed to do the needful are not paying attention, or they have forgotten? This is the second government since that time.
No, I don't think they're not paying attention, and it's never been on the front burner. Like I said, there are several agencies of government involved, but principally the National Salaries, Incomes and Wages Commission, because they set the remuneration of public workers. But even other people, okay, the Ministry of Health, the Ministry of Education, the National Universities Commission, but like I said, principally with the National Salaries, Incomes and Wages Commission. Now, you will probably recall that a few weeks ago, there was a letter that was issued by the National Salaries, Incomes and Wages Commission, where they directed universities that had been paying medical doctors who are lecturers, some allowances, that compensated for the income loss they were incurred. They directed those universities to stop. Okay, and what that meant is that even the few universities that had identified this deficiency and had taken the initiative to try to mitigate it have been directed by the National Salaries, Incomes and Wages Commission to stop. So, like I said, I mean, that's just, that was the last straw, and we have no other option. I'm sorry.
Well, has there been any intervention on the part of MDCN, which is the regulatory authority or agency? Is there anything that agency could have done, that body of government could have done, or the Ministry of Health could have done to at least get ahead of this issue so that it doesn't get to the point where senior doctors are announcing a strike?
Well, the responsibility of the MDCN falls primarily within the regulation of the professional aspects of the practice. They're not really directly involved in the remuneration of doctors. Like I said, the agency responsible is the National Salaries, Incomes and Wages Commission. Over the past few years, we have been engaging with them and we've not made any progress. Ministry of Health, again, is directly involved but does not set the salaries of workers. Okay, the same thing with Ministry of Education. So the problem falls squarely with the National Salaries, Incomes and Wages Commission.
Have said, Prof, is valid. I would be concerned as an employer or as a supervisor about the welfare of the people that I work with, the people that I supervise, the people that make me look good, in the sight of the public. So I would say that the Ministry of Health and the MDCN also have some measure of responsibility, even if it's not executive, at least some intervention that could stave off the point that we are right now.
Well, like I told you, we have engaged with all these agencies over the past 10 years. Okay, we've engaged with the Ministry of Health, the Ministry of Education. We have written and written. We have had courtesy visits. We've gone through the whole works. And what we identify is that, there's buck passing. Each agency tells you, no, sorry, we're not primarily involved in this. And passes you on to the next. And the next finds a way to, finds an excuse, and at the end of the day, you see, it's an issue that has to do with deciding or bringing out a structure that will compensate and correct the anomalies. And like I said, it's the responsibility of the National Salaries, Incomes and Wages Commission. Of course, they have their own mechanisms and processes that they employ in arriving at what will be considered a fair and appropriate compensation for the work that, a worker does. But in the past 10 years, this process has not yielded any fruit. I'm not aware that they've even initiated any process to correct this, and so that's why we're at this point today.
Okay, let me bring in Comrade Issa Aremu, who is the Director General. But we'll be bringing him on later on just to get his perspectives on all of these issues that are playing out. Well, Prof, you have spoken with the Salaries Commission, Salaries and Wages Commission over these years. And as far as you're concerned, it doesn't look like anything is being done by the Salaries and Wages Commission. Is that correct?
Absolutely.
Okay. Okay. Now, speak to some of the issues that you have raised, even though you have stated them, but maybe you want to speak a little more specifically to them. You're saying that there is even an issue in the immediate. You want an immediate withdrawal of a letter from the chairman of that's it right there of the Salaries and Wages Commission, directing the removal of doctors from commerce on the IP's platform in the university. Is this in any way saying it's not only a problem of the payment of salaries, but even the process?
Okay. Like I alluded to earlier on, what happened was that immediately this deficiency was observed, some universities, took the initiative to pay their people on a structure that's fairly compensated for the losses. In the university, we are remunerated on the Conwell salary scale. In the teaching hospital, we are remunerated on the CONMES salary scale. And what these universities did was that seeing that both salary scales are equally applicable, they remunerated their people on CONMES in the university. Now, what National Salaries, Incomes and Wages Commission did was to direct that those universities should stop remunerating their lecturers on CONMES in the university. And what this implies is that even that little effort they had made to try to mitigate the salary loss was eliminated. Okay, so that is why we felt that the first step was to withdraw that directive to the universities. And like I said, those universities that had already adopted a mechanism that fairly compensated, of course, it only makes sense that they should go back to what they were doing. I don't know if you are aware, but a court injunction has been secured that actually directs the Office of the Accountant General of the Federation not to implement that directive. Okay, there's a court injunction to that effect pending the determination of the substantive matter. And so this was what we were asking in the ultimatum. Okay, because we believe that if a couple of universities had already started correcting this, it was just a matter of getting the remaining to equally correct it. And it wasn't supposed to be such a big deal. But that action of the National Salaries, Incomes and Wages Commission was retrogressive, and that is not acceptable to us.
But you also know, Prof, that it is a federal government directive to move all civil servants, all the people that get paid, by the federal government to the IP's platform. How does the IP's platform, for instance, differ from CONMES? Especially as it concerns
let me just put some perspective. Okay, the IP's platform is a payment platform of government. We have no problem with which platform one is paid on, insofar as one gets his due entitlements. Okay, it's the salary structure that is the problem. The salary structure, it's either consolidated university academic salary structure, that is CONWAS, or consolidated medical salary structure, that is CONMES. Okay, these two are equally applicable to our members because on one hand, they are lecturers with the university. On the other hand, they are doctors who also practice as doctors. So the issue is the only way you can mitigate this income loss is if you pay them as doctors in the university, using appropriate government circulars that are already in existence. So we do not have an issue with the IP's platform at all. In any case, even is the IP's platform that government is using to remunerate lecturers so far. So that is not the issue. It's the salary structure that is the issue and the related allowances.
So when you also talk about, that directive that all universities previously paying their clinical lecturers on CONMES should revert to the same practice, isn't that in a way, contravening what you just said now, that, you don't have a problem with the IPs, it's just the salary structure. So and essentially you're saying the payment platform isn't as important as the payment itself.
Absolutely, absolutely. Try and get me right. The platform itself is not the issue. You can be paid on Conwas on the IP's platform. You can be paid on Commerce on the IP's platform. Okay, and the situation right now is that government is using the IP's platform to pay university salaries. So that's what I'm saying. We don't have an issue with that. The issue is whether it is the salary structure that's applied, whether it is the university academic salary structure or the medical salary structure. Okay. So that's the issue.
So are you asking that the doctors should be paid as doctors and as lecturers, or you just want them to be paid as doctors who teach?
Okay, now we're coming to the peculiarities, all right? Currently, they are paid as teachers. Let me put it like that. But that practice has resulted in a situation where they are suffering these income losses. And it is generating a problem. This is a decision of government, okay, to remunerate them primarily as lecturers. So, but over these past 10 years, that practice is generating problems for us because now we are unable to attract or retain the best of minds, into the academia. The medical schools are having difficulties attracting people to come and work as lecturers. Of course, for you to be able to teach clinical medicine, you have to practice clinical medicine. So yes, you're a teacher, but you are also a doctor, a practicing doctor. And so it's on the basis of this that some universities decided, okay, let us pay you as a doctor, because that is what would correct the income. Okay. Now, like I said, either salary structure is applicable. But if that decision to pay them as doctors in the university compensated for the income loss, okay, because like I said, young people, they do not want to become lecturers because, in the medical aspect, they rather go and work primarily as doctors and be remunerated as such. So we have a distortion where people are leaving the academia, people are leaving the university. They don't want to teach clinical medicine again. They just want to practice it because that is what compensates them better. And many people are also leaving the country. The brain drain phenomenon is as bad as ever, and this is one of the major drivers for our members. Okay, and so when somebody is suffering these income losses and he gets an offer that's over and above what he's getting here, it's one of the pull factors. Okay, and they leave. Okay, so these universities, these federal universities, had studied this and taken the initiative to say, look, if we do this, and is still within the ambits of government regulations and extant circulars, it will correct to some extent this anomaly. And so they adapted it, okay? But the Salaries, Incomes and Wages Commission put a stop to that. This is what the problem is.
Okay.